What up, everyone? It is your self-proclaimed favorite law school YouTuber. That was cringy. My name is Tyler. I am a 3L at Columbia Law School. I am in my final year. I'm so excited. But with that, I usually do a review every year of the previous year. So this video, we're going to be taking a look back at my second year of law school, also known as 2L. I delayed making this video for so long. One, I just had a lot of personal things, which I'll get into going on during my second year of law school. And then at the end of the spring, when the university president called the police on students and the protests were happening in the school, it was just so tense and so intense. I didn't want to make it. So, honestly, it's like I didn't know what to say, but I feel like enough time has passed where I can talk about it, at least in a way, and I'm going to be honest, I'm not going to talk about everything. That's not the point of this video. It's not supposed to be, that's just not the point of this video. That's not what this channel was for, but I will give you my thoughts and opinions and talk a little bit about those issues just because they're part of the 2L, they deserve to be talked about, and it can impact your experience if you choose to come to Columbia. So essentially I'm going to start chronologically. So, first day back on 2L. I will say also it is such a grind going through 1L, and then you don't really have a winter break because you're trying to find a summer job, and then once you're working that summer job, you don't really have a summer break because you're trying to find a post-grad job. So 1L essentially is busy all the way up through the start of 2L. I think that's why it's so awful and people hate it so much. But 2L is nice because you get to start picking your classes. You have so much more control over your schedule, and you can actually take courses and do programs that you were interested in and that maybe brought you to law school or that specific law school. So when I stepped onto campus the first day of 2L, it felt like a totally different school for me. Going from having classes that were mandated and you couldn't pick your schedule, and my professors in the spring low-key sucked, and I'm not just saying that, a lot of people would say that, it just is what it is. But going into 2L and getting to pick your professors in your classes, it was so refreshing because I actually felt like I was doing things I cared about. I was reminded of the things I was passionate about and what brought me to law school. I was super lucky because I got into some of the programs on my first time applying that I really wanted to do at Columbia, including the mediation clinic. So, there was things that brought me to Columbia that I knew I wanted to do while I was there. And so getting to participate in those so early in my law school journey was just so nice. I will say hot tip, take advantage of that 2L, do some things you like, try some new things. I was not the person who only took classes that were on the bar, and now as someone who's studying for the bar, and I'm ultimately glad I did it the way I did it. But so stepping on beginning of the school year, super nice, very refreshing, honestly felt like a totally different school. In some ways that's true, it was. In 1L you're kind of with the same people all the time, taking the same classes together. So going into 2L, and one, you get to meet so many new people, which is just nice because, I don't know, I really enjoyed most of the people in my 1L class, but it's just nice to meet other people, especially when you're bonding because you're in classes about things that you care about and you have mutual interest in. So hopefully, if you're in your 1L going through that and thinking about your 2L, there is a light at whatever tunnel, halfway through the tunnel, I don't know. But that did make it so much better. So, like I said, I really came to law school to do experiential work. So for me, that was doing the mediation clinic. I've really heavily emphasized doing experiential credits. Low-key, I'm graduating this year and I have maxed out my experiential credits. You're allowed to do 30 at Columbia. And I had to take one of my classes, which was an experiential class, for 1 unit less, just so I didn't go over that. So I've really been trying to get out and about. I'm not trying to sit in the classroom. So doing a clinic my fall semester of 2L was super great. That was about half of my units. I was also writing a research paper with a professor who I super loved, but I just feel so grateful that I got to work with her. I actually ended up working with her for the whole year because of some personal issues that came up, but I'll get into that later. But yeah, so I was writing that research paper, which was really interesting. I was doing it on LGBTQ book bans. So that was really nice because my con law professor kind of sucked. So I didn't learn a lot about due process. So I was able to teach myself about that through this paper. I also took a FDA class. Honestly, I took it because the time was great. I was only on campus 3 days a week, but that professor was brand new. He turned out to be super, super nice, really amazing. I was actually able to write a paper about the regulation of sex toys in that class. So tip number 2, you can find ways to make law school fun and interesting for you. It might sound kind of stupid and very clickbaity, right? I wrote a paper about sex toy regulation, but I actually did think it was really interesting. There are a lot of weird regulatory gaps, which is kind of concerning because sex toys have become so popular, but regardless, there are ways to make law school fun. I got to do that through this class. It was super interesting. I did feel a little bad for that professor because we had to get our topics approved, and it's his first semester teaching, and I'm coming up and I'm like, hey, could I write about sex toy regulation? And he's like, send me a little outline on what you plan on writing about, and if it seems legit, let's do it. And so he was actually super supportive, really, really great. He actually recommended I submit that paper for a writing competition, so just like such a nice guy and like very down. What else did I take? Oh yeah, I took information privacy, another great class. I worked in advertising and video games before law school, so I was trying to find kind of like data privacy, intellectual property, techie classes I could take. Also, like I said, 2L, I chose most of my classes just based off the professor reviews. Like, except for the one who didn't have any because he was brand new. But legitimately, I had such a bad time in my second semester of 1L just because the professors really did not give a crap about us. And that's not how my undergrad was, right? Like, I went to a small undergrad. I really enjoyed getting to know my professors and they cared about us. Columbia is much more, they put a lot more emphasis for the professors to publish research and put that out. That's like their bread and butter and their money makers and whatever. So I was like, I just want to take classes with teachers who care about me as a student and want to invest into me. So my information privacy professor was so amazing. She was so nice. She took such like what can be a very overwhelming and complicated topic because there's not really one holistic law to go over. She made it just like so manageable and like taught us tangible skills, which is so nice because sometimes in law school you feel like you're just kind of like theorizing about everything and nothing feels real. Maybe that's just me. It just felt very tangible, even though data privacy maybe would seem like one of the less tangible classes, but it was more helpful than even my property class. She was amazing, really loved her. So those were essentially, that was everything I was doing, right? It ended up being about 15 units, which is like pretty, it's up there. They max out at 16. That's what they will make you stop at. So, writing that big research paper, having mediation, which was half my units, like I said, and very time intensive. And then those 2 courses was like, but it was great. Like, I honestly was really busy, but I was doing things I cared about. So I didn't feel as bogged down as I did during 1L. And there was just less reading because some of the stuff I was doing was out and about and helping real people and helping clients and helping manage and settle cases. So, with that said, there was like a lot of difficult things that came up during my first semester. There was just like family health issues, which were really hard, but also made me very grateful that I did choose professors based off them caring about their students, because there were multiple professors' offices that I cried in, which was like so uncomfortable. But we also had someone pass away in one of my classes, which hit me really hard. Yeah, and there was just like a lot of loss that was happening during that time, and like I mentioned, so I extended working on that research paper through the spring actually, just because I couldn't focus on it. Like, it was so hard to sit down and pretend like writing about the law mattered when there was like so many other real losses happening in my life. And so, but like I said, that sex toy paper actually was one way for me to kind of escape, and like I really enjoyed writing it, so it helped me just get something done. And as my therapist says, a good paper is a done paper. So I had all that going on, and that was also kind of when things on campus started to get really difficult. And honestly, I'm probably not going to talk a ton about that just because I think everyone has their own experience on it. Everyone has their own take. Going into my second semester then, I was still taking a good amount of units. I was still doing the mediation clinic. Oh, I totally forgot. Okay, before we get into the spring, I also took one January term course because I was really just trying to take as many credits as I could in my 2L, so that way in 3L I could take as few credits as I needed to. I took a cryptocurrency regulatory class. Especially coming from gaming, I really didn't want to know anything about crypto, but I learned so much. But I also got COVID for the first time during that class, so I only went to half of it. Luckily it was pass-fail, so I still passed. But yeah, I was so sick. I don't think I had gotten COVID since the whole pandemic started, and so to get it like 4 years in, like, it took me out. Like, I felt awful. Anyway, I also did that. But now, what did I do in the spring? Oh, yeah. Okay. So like I said, I extended that research paper. I took professional responsibility, class you have to take. I took legislation regulation, another class you have to take at Columbia, and then I did the clinic. So ultimately what was happening that semester, I was just trying to finish all the classes I had to take to graduate. Once that was done, at the end of my 2L, I actually had finished all my graduation requirements. I'd finished my minor writing, my major writing, all the required courses I had to take, professional responsibility. I took the MPRE, which I can make a video about if you have questions on, but that's essentially just like the lawyer ethics exam. And I did all that because if you saw my most recent update video, I'm actually taking the bar early. And so I wanted to do this program where you take the bar in February, and then instead of taking classes, your final semester of 3L, you work at a free legal service. So that was what I wanted to do. And it is low-key, that's what I'm doing. To do that, I had to finish everything 2L. So I finished up all that stuff, still chose my professors based on reviews. My legislation regulation professor was amazing. Like, she's so nice, made the class so interesting, didn't just assign like an excessive amount of reading, made everything so tangible. Like, her and my info privacy professor are such good examples, because even at the end of the semester, they weren't like teaching up until the very final class. They were like, we purposely save a few classes for review, because if we're teaching until the very final lecture class, like, that's not fair to y'all for the exam. And I was like, I was actually shocked. You know, I was like, oh my God, that like, wow, that makes so much sense and is so considerate. Thank you. My PR professor, it was fine. I took it because it was the most amount of credits and I had to take it. But I will say that does bring me into essentially the peak of campus conflict, right? Like, once the president, who is no longer with us, bless, essentially called the police on all the students, like, I will say there was so much tension on campus between students, and there was no good way for people to talk about it or try to do anything really. All of the conversations were happening in group chats, which was like probably not the best forum, but you know, it's like all we had. So, but essentially once the president called the police on the students, all the students kind of found a common enemy, and they were like, well, what the hell? You know, like, that was crazy. And honestly, it was so crazy. Like, when you look back at that, it's such a wild time, because there's all these procedures in place that she had to like essentially pull a trump card and be like, I'm still gonna call the police, even after like the student senate and like the university senate and whatever was like, don't do it. She was like, I'm gonna do it. She was also, you know, being questioned by Congress, so I'm sure that was part of it. She's like trying to keep her job, but it was right during finals too, right? So finals got so wacky because originally everything was supposed to kind of be like, we're just gonna do finals as we plan them. It's gonna be in person, they'll be proctored. And the finals policies changed, not joking, every single day leading up to finals. So we would get emails from the university that would be like, oh, like, this class you can now take pass fail. Ooh, this you can take pass fail now. And oh, now you can take like anything pass fail. But like, it was so awkward, and it would change every single day. And then they're like, oh, we're shutting down the school. All exams are remote. And the professors were also dealing with this too, right? They were planning on these exams being in person and proctored, and now they're giving remote exams. And they're like, okay, what do we do about that? People were worried about people cheating. Like, all these things were going on. So it was just crazy. I will say, I think a lot of the students were able to support each other in really great ways. Like, the amount of student advocacy I saw during that time was really, really empowering and inspirational. You know, a lot of people were trying to help craft policies and influence the school to help people who were most impacted by everything that was going on. And so I found that to be very encouraging in light of everything kind of exploding. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna say on that, but I bring it up because I do think it's a very valid like critique of the administration of Columbia. And you know, this channel I think is usually pretty positive. Like, I really wanted to go to Columbia out of all the options I had when I was getting into schools. I don't regret coming here. I still wanted to live in New York. I've gotten to do the programs I really wanted to do. I will say it's crazy expensive. It is so expensive, even being on a scholarship. It's nuts. It's so nuts. But you know, those realities don't really hit you when you're choosing a school versus now I'm leaving the school and like now I have all the debt and I can like see it and feel it, you know. So it is just a different time, but I remind myself of why I came here. I'm very happy with the professors I got to work with. I've made some really great friends, but I didn't want all of my channel just to be like a positive take. I wanted it to be informative and realistic. You know, that was the whole point of making this channel back when I was making LSAT content, right? Like, how much did I spend? What resources did I use? How many times did I take the exam? Like, all those types of things I put out there just so that way it would, I don't know, at least you're getting something from someone beyond Reddit, because there just wasn't a lot when I was looking. So I wish I had a resource like that. And I'm so grateful for that too, because it is so interesting to look back at my law school journey. I mean, the only people who know about it are people who want to go to law school, right? So it's really funny because people will come to like admitted students tours, or I'll run into people, or people will DM me. And it's just so funny to like, I don't know, like, it's great to connect with people and get to hear their own journeys and their own challenges and their own wins. And I just feel very privileged to be in a space where you want to share that with me, so thank you. But I also just wonder what my experience would have been like if I'd never made this channel, right? Like, it's been such a formative part of it. So sorry, I'm like in my last year, right? So I'm getting all like reflective. Anyway, after finals and everything exploded, I started working. So like, it was so crazy. And obviously a lot of people at the organization I was working at were like, oh, Columbia, like, you know, and people from UCLA and Berkeley like all got the same questions, right? The loaded like, oh, how was it? The spring was kind of crazy. And we just had to kind of be like, yeah, very eventful, you know, because workspaces, you never know what people think. Or I think overall it has been positive. As far as the benchmarks of what I wanted going into school, I think I've gotten those things. I definitely have so many critiques, like so many criticisms of the school, right? But I also don't think they're unique to Columbia. Like I said, I think, you know, UCLA, Berkeley, Penn, like all these schools, like I'm sure every law school could feel the heat and the tension during that time. So, and I don't think any of them handled it perfectly, but Columbia definitely handled it poorly. I think this is like a pretty robust look back at my 2L, and I think that's everything I want to say. Let me check my notes. I did write notes to try and prepare for y'all. Oh yeah, I guess one more thing I'll say. Tip number 3, and I feel like this is a tip I give in almost all my videos. Just know what you want out of school. You don't have to overcommit. I'll say 2L. Some people think 2L's super busy, and I think for some people it is. I was definitely busy, but I didn't like overburden myself or overload myself with like journals and extracurriculars and everything. Like I was a president for 2 clubs. I did much more for one than the other because it was like kind of my primary gig. First generation professionals, any first gen, love to see it. I knew what I was committing to going into 2L, and I didn't want to be drowning like I was in 1L. So there are definitely ways to make 2L manageable. I would say don't say yes to everything, like unless you really just want it all on your resume, but it does come at a cost, right? Like some of it can be so much work. So I think just think about, what do I want? Do I want like to actually throw myself into this and get really involved and have a rewarding experience? Or do I just want to put something on my resume? Like both are valid and fine. But for me, I was like, I only want to do things that I really want to do. I don't want to just take on a bunch of stuff to put on my resume. And I have enough things on my resume, right? Like I think throughout law school, like even if you only do the things you want to do, you will have a great resume. That's my last tip. But thank you all for watching so much. I have no idea how long this video is, but hopefully it was helpful. Hopefully you got some insight, you gained some personal tea on me, some tea on the school. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel. Also, honestly, I still have that personal like goal to just have more subscribers than Columbia Law School's YouTube. I don't know when or if that will ever happen, but it would make me very happy. So thank you so much for watching. I will see you in the next video. There are gonna be bar prep videos coming, you guys, ladies, gals, theys, thems. Low-key, I'm actually studying for the bar right now, and it's a thing, it's a process, but love you all so much. Thanks for watching. Feel free to comment any questions you have or DM me, and I'll see you later. Bye.